Hey everyone, Pat Mayo here. Just wanted to let you know that 1 minute after we finished filming, Aaron Rodgers was placed on season-ending injured reserve. So when we talk about Aaron Rodgers potentially starting or the different scenarios with the Packers receivers, fortunately, we touched on the Packers offense in terms of both Aaron Rodgers and Brad Hundley because, we think ahead. But he is out for the year, so disregard any Aaron Rodgers is playing talk. We didn't know. So sorry, but I did want to give you a heads up. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. This is it, the final rankings debate show of 2017, Week 16 rankings debate with Jake Ciely from RotoExperts.com, from the Fantasy Sports Network, from Fantasy Radio. What's going on, man? We made it all the way to the finish line.
We did. Well, hopefully everybody watching, well, I'm assuming the other people are watching are the people that made it to the, unless they just really like to get mad at us for our rankings.
I guess so. I would wager this is the lowest rated show of the year. I mean, you can see a precipitous decline between like week 1 and week 2, and then week 2 and week 8 are all the same, and then people just give up.
Either that or if you tried to put together a video for next week. I'm pretty sure that won't be pretty bad.
Well, I can assure you I will not be doing that. Now you can go check out, Jake will actually have Week 17 rankings. I won't because I personally do not give a shit, and neither should you. But Jake is the man of the people. He is out here helping you. So if you do need Week 17 rankings, you can get that on RotoExperts.com with Jake Ciely.
Yeah, if you're insane enough to do it, I mean, there'll be rankings there for you. But put it this way: I'm not divesting. I'm just making up words over here. You can tell it's the end of the season. I'm not investing as much time as I normally would be in Week 17.
To give people some sort of sense of the content flow for over the holiday season, I will be back next week with the Draftkings picks for Week 17 and the Spread Pick'em show with Tim and a mystery guest because Jeff Feinberg will be on vacation. So you can count on those two new shows also coming next week. The players to watch for the 2018 PGA season and a preview of all 4 majors. Those are already done. So, be expecting those. Something to kill your time while you're trying to get away from your family or you're in transit or whatever. You're taking a plane. There'll be plenty of stuff for you to download on the Pat Mayo Experience. So please, everyone, leave us an iTunes review, a Stitcher review, or just give the video a like. It goes a long way, more than you could ever expect. So please go do that to this one and those ones and everyone, if you can do that. Also, I do want to say a lot of people participated in the Super 7 contest this year, which was 7 spread picks, ran through Gup's Corner. It was excellent. It's been a really fun year. Obviously, I didn't win, but someone out there may have won. We were doing the same thing for golf, the one-and-done pool. Jake, I know you played in the one-and-done pool last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was doing pretty good until the very end of the season and just kind of all fell apart.
So last 3 years, we've done it through Coach Esser. Esser's not doing his one-and-done pool this year. However, Josh Burkett and Gup's Corner stepped in for this, too. So they ran the Super 7 pool. They're going to be running the one-and-done contest. So go to gupscorner.com, G-U-P-S, corner.com/one-and-done. O-N-E for one, not the number one, and done. And, not the and sign. And you can sign up. It's $50 to play. It's 40 events. It's basically the best bang for your buck to keep you invested in something all season long. So, Jake, you got to sign up.
No, I definitely will. Like I said, I was on a good run last year, and I just got to hold it through those final 2 months of when I started paying too much attention to football.
That's true. And fortunately, golf ends at the end of... You only have 3 events that cross-sect outside of the playoffs, obviously. But like when football restarts, there's only 3 more events. So hopefully you can get through that. I suggest everyone go read the rules because it's really cool the way that it's partitioned, that even if you're not doing well in, let's say, May, there are different segments of the season where you can still get bonuses and wins. So no one's ever really out of it. And again, it's only $50. You can enter 3 teams if you want to. Spread the word. Tell some friends. Get it out there. It's going to be super fun to do, so I suggest everyone do it. Me and Feinberg are doing it, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's get to the rankings. Running backs. To start off, here's my list, Jake, from 1 to 10. Bell, Gurley, Elliott is back. He's number 3. McCoy, Kamara, you have ranked Mark Ingram at 6. Kenyon Drake, Kareem Hunt, Devonta Freeman, and Melvin Gordon. Now, the way that I'm playing this out in terms of injuries, I have Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine, Kerwin Williams, Tevin Coleman, and Leonard Fournette all in the rankings. I do not have Damian Williams or Rex Burkhead. James Conner is finished for the season. He is also not in the rankings. Stephen Ridley was signed to replace him, but don't expect him to see the field. So the rankings are influenced by those people being in and being out. Obviously, if Joe Mixon doesn't play, you move up Gio Bernard. If Damian Williams plays, you probably have to bump down Kenyon Drake a little bit. But for now, and they will be updated all the way up until Christmas Eve, you're going to get your Sunday game. So before Lock On Sunday, they will all for sure be updated on DKPlaybook.com. But I want to let everyone know that's how the rankings right now, as we are talking about them, stand. Listen, shit changes all the time. This happens. You got a problem inside the top 10? Because I know that Ingram, Drake, Hunt area, you have it in reverse.
Yeah, just not too big of a deal. I would go Hunt over those the way that he's been playing the last 2 games since they finally took the play calling duties out of Andy Reid's hands, whether or not he gave them up or they took it from him. The evidence is there. Look, you're winning games when you give Kareem Hunt 20 touches. And look, when he gets 20 touches, he looks terrific. And I stopped with this nonsense. People tweeting me. It was like, oh, he knew this was a play. He was just trying to keep him fresh for the stretch run. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, they wanted to lose games just so Kareem Hunt could be fresh for the stretch run. So I would go Kareem Hunt. I just trust him more. And then Mark Ingram. Yeah, I like what he's been doing, and I like him a hell of a lot more than you do. But the fact is, any given week could be a Camaro week, so I would just feel better about the workload for Hunt and Drake than Ingram. So it'd be reverse order. I think where you have him for your rankings is how I would do Ingram, but basically either way is okay by me.
The big thing with Kenyon Drake, if Damian Williams sits again, I always release the snap counts every Monday afternoon. You can find those in the article on my Facebook page, wherever, for every team. And there's one glaring number that stands out. You have like Le'Veon Bell played 82 snaps, and James Conner played 9, and Fitzgerald Toussaint played 1. You look at Miami's, Kenyon Drake, 75. That's it.
Yep. Well, that's obviously really appealing. And yes, the Damian Williams thing. And as you mentioned, the ranks will change. I love all the people, like, as soon as I wake up this morning, like 8,000. Well, who do I start for week 16? About, like, dude, like, breathe. Like, just relax. You don't even have to fit. There's no Thursday night football. You have plenty of time to set your lineup. I know you're excited. Congratulations. I know it feels great to be in the championship game, but breathe and just relish in the fact you're in the championship game before you get overexcited. But yes, that Kenyon Drake snap percentage is really enticing. The only concern that I have there is even if the snap percentage stays that because Damian Williams is out, just matchup wise, on the other side of the ball, I could see, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs kind of pull ahead, and then all of a sudden, even though he's great in the passing game, that being Drake, is that just the offense doesn't click for the Dolphins.
Well, I mean, that's a concern that I have as well, but fortunately, he still gets all the goal line carries, and regardless of what the score is, he's going to get those too. And listen, if they fall behind by 21 in the first quarter, he's going to end up with 12 catches. So either way, almost like Todd Gurley. And
it's more of like if they get into scoring opportunity, like Jay Cutler going for one of his 3 interception games is a distinct possibility.
Sure, but even last week when he was piss poor, Drake still had a good game.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so the 11 to 20 range. Leo Fournette, I have coming back from his quad injury. He is number 11. If he starts, I'm starting him. It's pretty simple when it goes down like that, especially when you're playing San Francisco. Dion Lewis, Christian McCaffrey, Alex Collins, Jerick McKinnon, Latavius Murray, Carlos Hyde, DeMarco Murray, Jordan Howard, and Samaje Perine. I would say after Leonard Fournette, he's more of a part of that tier that we just talked about. Then like Dion Lewis down to Alex Collins, I feel like are on their own mini tier, and then it's kind of a crapshoot. Who has the best matchup? Who do you think is going to come through in them? Because playing time for all these guys is up in the air every single week now.
No, you're definitely right. And if you want to talk back at the top 10, the only one I'm concerned about is Devontae Freeman. If Tevin Coleman's back, I might knock him outside the top 10 and put him in that tier with Leonard Fournette. But basically, you're right. I was actually going to say Dion Lewis, Christian McCaffrey are kind of like on their own. The Alex Collins situation, I know it's a terrific matchup. I don't know. This has been a frustrating backfield the entire season. And it's not just, look, the game script, everything's here for Alex Collins, but it's been there before. And then they go to Buck Allen at the goal line. So you just never know what the Ravens are planning to do any given week. And I could see that being a game where everything lines up for him. And they even win this game 30-10. And Alex Collins still only gets 60 yards and no touchdowns. So he definitely deserves to be in that heck of a conversation with, wow, what do you do here? DeMarco Murray's got a great matchup, but the production's been terrible. Jordan Howard can get written out of a game just like that if they're down 14-0. So it's I agree with you. I think that entire group, I would cut it off at Howard. I wouldn't put Samaje Perine into that conversation because look at what Capri Bibbs did last week.
Capri Bibbs took a dump off and took it to the house. I mean, if that doesn't happen,
But he was getting all the passing game work.
He was playing the old school Chris Thompson, even what Byron Marshall was doing to Perine, but he's still going to get 15 to 20 touches. And at this point of the season, hell, unless you're really rolling the dice.
I feel better about Perine if Paxton Lynch is at quarterback than I do if Brock Osweiler's at quarterback, surprisingly.
That's actually kind of true, but like even when you look at like the Packers backfield, for example, now that Aaron Jones has started to dig back in, and then it really depends on if Aaron Rodgers even plays or not, which is not certain at this point.
Oh, I don't care either way.
I think if Hundley starts again, then Jamal Williams is just going to be the guy again.
No, there's no way. I'm not doing it. I'm not against the Vikings and not with Aaron Jones. I know Aaron Jones and the whole conversation with Aaron Rodgers, and the touches weren't even that high last week for Aaron Jones. But for the fact that Williams only got 10 for 30, I can't trust the Packers backfield. I can't trust what that coaching staff is going to do. And if they're looking at next year and considering, hey, look, Aaron Jones was terrific earlier this year. Jamal Williams was good for a little bit while, but let's go back and see what Aaron Jones has left coming back from an injury. Like, I just don't know what they're going to do, whether or not it's Brett Hundley or Aaron Rodgers. Yes, I would feel better about Jamal Williams if Hundley's at quarterback, but not against the Vikings. I don't want to start either one of them.
No, but you might end up in a situation where you have to. So in my rankings, I have Jamal Williams at number 29, and I have Aaron Jones at number 48. So I don't want to play either of them, but if forced to, I'm playing Jamal Williams either way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's definitely, again, to go back to it, yes, the production was there last week, but if you looked at the touch percentage and not just the snaps all the time, that still wasn't that much for Aaron Jones.
No, it was three carries, but he ended up just breaking a big one.
Right.
It ended up just looking like he had a really good game, but he still ended up playing like 26% of the snaps, whereas Jamal Williams was playing like 95% of the snaps for like the 3 weeks previous.
And that's the concern too. That was the highest for Jones since he came back from injury.
Exactly. So that snap sharing really just undercuts what Jamal Williams was doing well, was that he was always on the field. So he was soaking up like 4 receptions a game just because he was out there. Now he doesn't have the same sort of opportunity on a per-play basis because Aaron Jones is back. That's why he's lower in my rankings. I mean, I don't even know how far I would move him up if Brett Hundley played. Like, I have Peyton Barber right in front of him, for example, and if Doug Martin doesn't play, hell, even if he does play, I still think I'd rather play Peyton Barber.
Well, even like he was healthy last week, and Doug Martin was inactive. So I'm with you. I don't care if Doug Martin is actually active or not. He's not going to be active on the field that much.
All right, so the entire 21 to 30 area at number 21, Marshawn Lynch, he played 51 snaps last week. He's just not that good, so he's 21. Duke Johnson,
Did you see the coach sneak him the Skittles during the game?
See, that's how you really motivate Marshawn. Get him going with that. So Marshawn is number 21. Then it's Duke Johnson, Lamar Miller, C.J. Anderson, Joe Mixon, Kerwin Williams, Jay Ajayi, Peyton Barber, Jamal Williams, and then Jonathan Stewart at number 30. Do you think there's anyone there that should be higher on this list?
I feel a lot better about Joe Mixon than you do in your rankings. And I know that he's coming off a concussion, but look, he was getting to work before that. And the matchup here is a matchup that's great for him. I'd rather start Joe Mixon than Marshawn Lynch, speaking of him, and actually because it's PPR, I would even go with him over Piron.
So you would put Mixon at number 20 behind Jordan Howard?
Yeah, I would, and I actually have him as a sleeper for my column when it comes out tonight at midnight with my ranking. So yeah, I've already talked about Joe Mixon.
I kind of want to see practice reports on him first to see if he's actually like full strength here.
But the thing, he's not. It's either clears the concussion or not. Yeah, I mean that's the good thing about it. And honestly, if he's out again, I think Giovanni Bernard would fall right into this range. He'd be lower. I would actually, if he's out, I would put Gio where you have Joe Mixon. But if Joe Mixon's active, I would move him up to 20.
You see, I wouldn't even do that. I would actually move Gio way up more. Like I would have, I'm going to move Mixon up to number 20. I think you make a very compelling case there. And maybe I was overweighting the injury situation. You're right. Either he plays or he doesn't play. But if there's no Joe Mixon, then Gio's going to get like 90% of the snaps, which Mixon's not going to get either way. He'll get 65, 70. He's not going to have the opportunity upside that Gio would get, but like I have Gio at 41 right now. I'd probably move him up. Like I might play him over Carlos Hyde.
I don't like what I saw from him last week, so I'm not going to argue.
He's not that Gio's not that good, but I mean, mind you. But I think the matchup plus the fact that he can do the work in the passing game. What's the difference between him and Carlos Hyde right now? Like Jacksonville's run defense has been great over the past 6 weeks. I don't expect him to, and he's not catching passes anymore.
No, and actually I would have Carlos Hyde lower for that reason, everything you just said. But back to the Joe Mixon thing, for something that's helped. The last 4 games, the Detroit Lions have given up 6 PPR double-digit scores. So that's the big thing that I really like about him.
Okay. Anyone from below, like Jay Ajayi, 27. Like,
No.
if you drafted Jay Ajayi, chances are you're not in the finals, so that's probably not a concern you may have. But like, even when I go down, like Wayne Gallman is playing more snaps all the time, but it's still a 3 running back set there. Like Frank
You
Gore,
haven't got no. You haven't even got to him yet. I was going to complain about Wayne Gallman.
too low or too high?
Way too low.
How can he be way too low? He's not that. I mean, do you really think he's gonna get 10 targets again?
Exactly. Look at the targets the last 2 weeks and the receptions the last 2 weeks. Oh, guess what? He's got, I think, the second most receptions in football over the last 2 weeks for running backs. He should be way higher. They're looking to next year. He's the most well-rounded running back in that backfield. The receptions are going to keep coming for him. He's basically Shane Vereen with a full workload.
Except Shane Vereen still gets like 6 catches too.
No, he's not even getting that much anymore. He's getting even 6 targets.
Okay, so Wayne Gallman or Jamal Williams?
Full PPR. I'd still go Jamal Williams, but I would go Wayne Gallman over Jay Ajayi. I still don't like. I didn't like that backfield last week. I still don't like it this week. Jay Ajayi, I know that what did he get 80 total yards last week, but it's those big plays that got him to there, and I know they can't complain and take those away. I hate when people do that. But at the same time, it's just if he's having a good day, averaging 6 yards per carry and doesn't get a big play, and he's only getting 10 touches. I mean, 60 yards.
Yeah, but I mean, I could see Wayne Gallman falling significantly short of that too.
Oh, Wayne Gallman certainly has a lower floor by far.
So I would still stick with Ajayi in that spot. Like, would you play Jonathan Stewart against Tampa or Wayne Gallman?
It depends on what you want. This is one where it actually goes the other way. If you want the upside, it's Stewart because you're just hoping he scores a touchdown, and this is a great opportunity for him to do one. But if he doesn't get a touchdown, you're probably getting 3 or 4 points. So the fact is, Wayne Gallman's much more trustworthy in a PPR. Stewart's the higher upside. So
I think I would still personally go Jonathan Stewart there, just because Tampa does nothing. Tampa does nothing but allow rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with that one.
All right, Wayne Gallman or James White? Like, it's the same scenario, except White plays on the offense that I expect to score more points.
And and look, if you go back to before Rex Burkhead came back, he was getting double-digit PPR points almost every single. I think there was one game out of like a 5 or 6 game stretch where he didn't get double-digit points. So I would still go White. I would actually. So Theo Riddick's banged up. They don't even sound that optimistic about him. So I would actually slot him in right there at 33.
Well, the Bilal Powell is right after that at number 34, and it just seems like if Petty is playing, like Bilal Powell has good games.
I agree, but I'm not relying on Bryce Petty. I'll go back to Eli Manning in a heartbeat against the Arizona Cardinals defense.
Yeah. Jets get the Chargers, no Perriman, a lot of quick dump-offs. I think I would still play Powell, because I just think Powell's good. And, I mean, listen, he was my guy coming to the year. He screwed me everywhere. But I think for this week, I will move up your main man, Wayne Gallman. I'll knock down Theo Riddick because of Abdullah potentially being back, injuries, Tion Green, whatever. And I'll move up. So I'll just drop Theo down behind Frank Gore and move Gallman up to where Powell is at number 34.
That works. Tion Green's sleeper this week. Watch out.
I don't mind him. It's just he's got to be on the field.
Look, he was last week. He did better than Amir Abdullah, and then Theo Riddick doesn't sound very optimistic for this week. I think Tion Green might be, if you're desperate for running back and you're in week 16, which I can't imagine you're that desperate, but maybe you're at a 14-teamer or 16-teamer and multiple start, whatever it might be. Like, go grab Tion Green just in case.
All right, is that it for running backs for us?
Yeah, I mean, that's at this point, how much further are you going to go? If you're playing in leagues where we need to get down to your rankings in the 40s and my rankings in the 40s, then you're on your own.
Yeah, you're probably good enough to figure this out on your own as well, if you've made it this far with no running backs.
Check the link.
Always. Wide receivers. This one is problematic. So I'm going to run through an injury report here of who I have in and who I have out. So in the rankings, I have Keenan Allen. Devin Funchess, shoulder. Ted Ginn, ribs. Emmanuel Sanders, ankle. TJ Jones, shoulder. They're in the rankings. So the other players are ranked as if those guys are playing. Guys I do not have in the rankings, and the other players are ranked, based on them not being there. Devontae Adams I have is out. Travers King with a concussion. Alan Hearns with his ankle. John Brown with his toe. Amari Cooper with his ankle. Braxton Miller with a concussion. Dante Moncrief with a groin. Jeremy Macklin with a knee. Aldrick Robinson with a concussion. For some reason, I have Austin Eckler in there. He should be under running backs, but he's out for the year with a hand injury. Deshaun Jackson with his ankle and Chris Hogan with his shoulder. Both Marquise Lee and Antonio Brown I have listed as out. They're not playing in Week 16. And Jeremy Curley got cut, so go Jermaine Kearse. Do you think
that's because the ghosts came in and fed him PEDs. You saw that, right?
Hey, yeah, listen, it happens. Sometimes the ghosts are out to get you.
That has to be the best excuse of all time. He believes it was ghosts.
I don't know. The Orlando Smith Wizinator is still pretty good.
That's true.
So, do you think that Amari Cooper is going to play? I don't think he is.
I don't think it matters if he does. That's the biggest thing. I mean, at this point, he has one great game and maybe two other okay. Are you really going to – that's the point.
No, but again, I never really worry about what happens with Amari Cooper and how it pertains to Amari Cooper. But if he's out there, the bottom line for Michael Crabtree, it would drop him down a few spots.
I don't think it might. Honestly, I mean, you're looking at the matchup here against Philadelphia. You're looking at a game that should be high scoring with the way that Nick Foles came out last week and said he wants to keep firing the ball, and he did keep firing the ball, and he's going to do it again this week against a terrible defense. Look, Derek Carr is going to have to keep passing, and whether or not Cooper's out there, I think if anything, it just softens the defense and gives less attention to Michael Crabtree because Darby can't just be on top. If Darby's on Crabtree and he's getting double coverage at times, I'm more concerned if Cooper isn't out there. I actually prefer Cooper out there.
Maybe so. There's no way I'm setting Michael Crabtree if Cooper doesn't play, though, because even though he might
Neither am I.
He could be quadruple covered, he might end up with 20 targets.
And but the quality of the targets because of the coverage is offset by if Cooper's out there, he's only getting 10. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I'd move him up or down no matter if Cooper's playing.
Okay, so I will stick with him, and we'll get to Michael Crabtree in a second. He's very high in the rankings. Well, he's high enough anyway. Number 1, DeAndre Hopkins. Number 2, Adam Thielen. Keenan Allen, number 3. Still, listen, if you have Keenan Allen at this point, you survived last week, you just got to throw him back out there and hope he's healthy. His upside is so massive. It was like DeAndre Hopkins last week. Do you know how many questions I got last week about DeAndre Hopkins? And should I sit DeAndre Hopkins? He's playing Jacksonville for, I got it if it was like Alshon Jeffrey or DeAndre Hopkins. It's new situation for Alshon Jeffrey. I still believe in Hopkins. I had him rated higher, but I understand that. But people were throwing out the goon squad to be like, oh, do I play? No, let me go down here. Should I play Tyrell Williams or should I play DeAndre Hopkins? What are you doing? Don't overthink this. DeAndre Hopkins rules. He burned me once that week. You tried to talk me into playing him against Patrick Peterson. I didn't. He went off in that game anyway. I was like, screw this. Just play. The guy might be the best receiver outside of Antonio Brown right now. Just play him.
That's true. Look, if you want to do the odds, 2 out of 3 worked, the third didn't. And it was A.J. Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans. Everybody wanted to sit all 3 of them. A.J. Green was valid. You could have sat him and it paid off for you because he's the one that didn't show up. The other 2 did. So if you're playing the odds, 2 out of 3 chances, you're going to be wrong if you sit these guys.
So Hopkins, Thielen, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas at number 4, Julio, Tyreek Hill, Larry Fitzgerald, Jarvis Landry, Mike Evans, and Alshon Jeffrey. I see almost a replica game for Jarvis Landry that he's had the past 2 weeks, 10 catches for 95 yards. Hopefully he gets a touchdown. But his floor is so hilariously high right now in PPR scoring that he's a must-play every week.
He's number 5 or 6 in the year in PPR?
Of course, he has 3,000 targets that have all gone for 5 yards. There has to be, we always talk about PPR players. The discrepancy between his PPR scoring and his standard league scoring must be astonishing.
It was one of the biggest. He's kind of like Theo Riddick when you talk about running backs and those type of players. It's a ridiculous gap. And who thought Jay Cutler was going to turn into Dink and Duck Cutler this year?
Yeah, it's why that as soon as Ryan Tannehill was injured and they were like, oh, they're bringing in Jay Cutler, it's fire up Devontae Parker. This sounds like right up his alley. Throwing jump balls down the sidelines and Jay Cutler not giving a shit. But no, that has not been the case.
Now you got me curious. Now I'm looking real quick. So Jarvis Landry is 15 in non-PPR and 5 in PPR.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he's having a weird outlier year for him in terms of touchdowns, too. I feel like he has, what does he have, 6 touchdowns?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is 5. He's already got 1,000 yards. He's got 5 touchdowns. But that's tied his career high. He actually hasn't a touchdown in a couple weeks now.
Yeah, but he's getting 10 catches a game to make up
Exactly.
for it.
I mean, that 10-person gap, I mean, we're talking like 40, 50 fantasy points, the difference between the two scoring.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he's a PPR sensation and a guy that is generally overvalued in standard leagues. Not to say that he's
You know who
bad.
else has sneakily been that has a similar gap is Michael Thomas.
Oh,
Michael
I can
Thomas.
see that. Well, Michael Thomas has what? He had 2 touchdowns called back last week, then finally scored one. But, what is it?
Wait. How does that work, by the way? How does a heel not count the same as a toe? That makes no sense to me.
Listen, as someone who I got to give all the credit in the world to Pierce Dietrich on this one. All week, he tried to sell me on the bird swinger. I can't even remember his fucking first name.
Demir Bird.
Demir Bird. And he's like, you got to play this guy. You got to play this guy. I was like, all right, I'm just going to play him. So apparently a left ass cheek counts more than a heel.
Well, no. One butt cheek equals 2 feet or 1 knee, but it's less than, the heel counts less than all of them because it doesn't count.
Yeah. So, anyway, what does Michael Thomas have? 3 touchdowns?
Michael Thomas, I think he's got 3 or 4. That's been the disappointing part about it, and that's why he's been doing better in PPR. He's got 5. He's up to 5 now.
He's up to 5. He, coming into next season, he's going to be a guy who should be a first-round pick that isn't a first-round pick, solely because of the lack of touchdowns. Unless he explodes over the next 2 weeks and next 3 weeks and just starts grabbing everything in the end zone. His fantasy stats, when people compare them, they won't. It's like even like we talked about with him 6 weeks ago. It's like he was still doing 6 for 76 every single week, but people were disappointed because he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, actually, Jarvis Landry has 8 touchdowns. I was looking at Michael Thomas when you asked. So yeah, Landry's got more touchdowns, 3 more touchdowns than Michael Thomas does.
Yeah, and that's for someone like Jarvis Landry. That is he's regressing back to the mean next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't invest next year.
Okay, so 11 to 20 in terms of receiver. We got Brendan Cooks, Josh Gordon, Crabtree, Marv Jones, A.J. Green, Juju Smith-Schuster, Doug Baldwin, Devin Funches, Randall Cobb, and Dez Bryant. When it comes to the Pittsburgh receivers and passing game, I have Ben as my number 1 quarterback this week, just because I love this matchup so much, which seems kind of crazy because Antonio Brown is out. But now you have Smith-Schuster I have as a top 20 option. I have Martavis Bryant at number 22. Jesse James is inside my top 15 in terms of tight ends this week. Ben's number 1. And listen, Bell's a big part of that passing game always. Obviously, he's number 1 as one of the running backs. But do you think that these are guys that you can trust in your fantasy finals right now in the matchup of the year for them?
Oh, I definitely think you can. Here's the big thing about Martavis Bryant is the Texans have given up the most 40-plus yards plays by the league by 6. They have 16. The next closest is 13. So if you're looking at potential here, that's the one thing Martavis Bryant could do is run the 9 route and get deep. The biggest problem is why he struggled to be the number 2 option all this time is because he can't run the entire route tree. He struggles at it, but he could be a good red zone presence, a good touchdown maker, and a good deep ball option. All those things are here for them in the matchup. So this is the one of those few weeks where you actually throw out the word trust, and I think you can with Martavis Bryant.
Yeah, how much does your strategy change playing? I know you're in the finals of the Flex League, probably because I took the year off the Flex League, which I dominated.
Meanie finished last.
Yeah, Meanie takes my spot, finishes last. I never missed the playoffs and was the all-time champion of that league. Stupid me. I'll get back in next year. Anyway, in the finals, and it's something that I always do. You're always just trying to survive. You're trying to survive. Get through the weeks, make the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. But you're still even playing floors versus ceilings in some matchups once you look at your team versus another team. When it comes to week 16 in a fantasy finals, I have never been scared to pull the trigger on a guy that I just think might score 25 points. Sometimes it's fucked me. Other times it's worked out incredibly well. But I think you're right. This is a week, don't care about trust. Who is going to score you the absolute most points this week? Who has the highest ceilings? You might just want to go with those guys.
Right. And, I mean, but also at the same time, you're not going overboard. You're not saying, oh, I'm going to start Tyler Lockett because he could take a 60-yarder any given. You're not going that bananas with it. But a Martavis Bryant, where normally you would say, oh, Martavis Bryant or Demaryius Thomas, he's not even that great this year. But you understand the point is if you're going to go for that ceiling and there are guys within a range of 10 to 12 spots, and you're going to your point, yeah, this is the one chance where if you want to take it to the DFS perspective where you can go more tournament than cash, because the entire season, to your point, you should be playing cash lineups the most of the season. But at this point, you can go a little bit more tournament style.
I have Randall Cobb at number 19. This is assuming that Davante Adams doesn't play, which it doesn't look like he's going to play because he might have
I would hope not.
He has a bad case of the dizzies on the go, and they're basically out of it. There's no reason to bring him back. But I now worry that Aaron Rodgers might not play, and therefore I have to adjust the rankings of all my Packers receivers and just bump them down a lot. But after what I saw last week with Randall Cobb, it seems like if that's open, that's what he's taken.
Well, even if it's Brett Hundley. So 2 weeks ago, well, 3 games ago, he had a touchdown with Brett Hundley, and he has been the more productive one, even with Hundley at quarterback, than Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson gets the bad matchup with Xavier Rhodes. So what you expect here, if there is no Davante Adams, is Randall Cobb to be able to have the one who frees up some space, especially over the middle of the field where Brett Hundley is more comfortable going. So I think Randall Cobb, I wouldn't even move him down. I would move him down if Hundley is at quarterback, and I do expect him to be at quarterback because there's only downside for the Packers at this point with Rodgers because they're not making the playoffs. But that being said, I'm not going to move him down 15 spots if Hundley's at quarterback. And here's the sad thing is trying to figure out who the third option would be, because the third option is probably going to end up catching a touchdown this week.
Yeah, I actually moved up Geronimo Allison to number 49 in the rankings. He usually resides in like the 110 area, but if Adams isn't there, he seems to be the next guy up every time.
He does seem to be until Jeff Janis pops up for that 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns that he has every single year. Although I will say this, would it surprise you if Davante Adams this is the same guy we wrote off last year and returned for Thursday night on 4 days?
What wasn't that this year? Wasn't that like week 7 when Trevathan
No, that
laid
was
him
last
out?
year.
No, that was this year.
You sure?
Yeah, it was like 10 weeks ago.
That feels like it was last year.
Yeah, well,
this is the time of the year. I could have sworn that was last year when Davante Adams came back for Thursday night.
Now let's see, Adams, Trevathan, concussion. That's not even close to being spelled right. It was spelled so poorly without me looking at the screen that not even like a Google word search came up. Adams, concussion.
Would you like to translate that?
No, it wasn't even that. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you so drunk?
Oh, while you're doing that, by the way, I was searching for the 2000 Oklahoma championship game because I couldn't remember if it was Jason White at quarterback or what his first name was or whatever it was. And when you pop it up, the top 3 players it has for that team is Roy Williams, safety. It has a picture of Roy Williams, the coach for UNC basketball, on Google.
Oh, wow. Yeah, October 7th this year.
Wow, I could have sworn it was last year. Wow, this is where we are at this point in the year.
Yeah. There's one name I actually purposely left out of the rankings just so you could put him in for me because I was really struggling with it. I kind of committed to Randall Cobb, but I didn't want to know how low I should rank Jordy Nelson. Like, let me ask you, would you play Jordy Nelson or Geronimo Allison?
No, I would go Jordy.
Jordy Nelson or Devontae Parker?
That's a pretty good range. I'm looking actually. I would go Coleman before Nelson. I would go Sanu before Nelson. Wow, Tyrell. I'd actually put him right between Tyrell Williams and Damiere Byrd.
All right, so Jordy Nelson's going to go into the rankings at number 42 in between Terrell Williams and Damiere Byrd. Bird's the word, man. The guy's got a big bird. He scores touchdowns. That's all he does.
That's all he did, really, if you look at the catches and receptions yards or receiving yards last week. But the thing is with Nelson is it really came down to, Aaron Rodgers is going to resurrect him. The problem is Jordy Nelson is the problem. He's not separated. I think he got free twice, and one was the one where Aaron Rodgers didn't hit him on that deep play. But that was, I think, only one of 2 plays where he actually separated from the defender. So no matter who the quarterback is, if the offensive line is going to let them get pressure like that, you don't have time to find Nelson because he's not getting open.
Yeah. 21-30 in the rankings. Robert Woods made his return, led the team with a 35% market share. No worries about Robert Woods. Martavis Bryant, as mentioned, at 22. Rashard Matthews, Demarius Thomas, D.D. Westbrook. I ain't scared. I'm going back. Mike Wallace, probably with no Macklin, is actually kind of shaping up to be a nice play. Stephen Diggs, Golden Tate, Keelan Cole, and Cooper Kupp. Keelan Cole, man, and this is influenced by last week, obviously. I don't expect him to have that game again, but he's getting the targets. And if he's going to get the targets, people against San Francisco, play them. How about that?
And there's only 2 options here. It's D.D. Westbrook and Keelan Cole at this point.
No, there's the other guy, Mickers, or whatever the hell his name is. That
Jalen Mickens.
Yeah, guy's an asshole.
Yes. Hey, watch people put Jaden Mickens in their lineup this week, too.
Oh, they will. And you know what? Watch it pay off.
Oh, don't get me started. They'll probably be like a 4th option. I don't even know who it is at this point that'll probably pop up. But the thing is I want to go back to the quarterback, and I know we'll talk about this. It's just, oh God, this just feels like the setup for the Blake Bortles. He finally turns back into full pumpkin this week.
I still think the defense is good enough to win them this game either way, or Fournette is.
No, but I'm talking about the effect of him, people having him in the lineup, and then D.D. Westbrook and Keelan Cole.
Yeah, I mean, that's entirely Listen, the moment you start trusting Blake Bortles like something good is going to happen, things can go horribly wrong.
Like Jared Cook.
Yeah, it's a very Jared Cook situation, except the perceptions between the two are reversed. So, like, people think Jared Cook is really awesome, so they're, like, befuddled when he does poorly. They're like, how can he do poorly? He's Jared Cook. He's great. But he's not great. And Blake Bortles, everyone just assumes he sucks, so when he has a good game, they're like, holy shit, he had a good game. That's crazy.
That's the thing. He's had good games every single week for the past 7 or 8 weeks. And this is why I'm saying the only concern here is the only bad week he had was against the Browns, which you should be able to dominate.
All right, can I give you my tier of the 3 guys that I don't know what to do with, or tier of 4 guys that you probably just start anyway, but they all have really bad matchups?
Sure.
Yeah, it's the 31 to 35 range. Marquise Goodwin taking on Jacksonville. Sterling Shepard probably going to be matched up with Patrick Peterson. T.Y. Hilton, who's just T.Y. Hilton, and never is a good sign with him. And then Robbie Anderson against the Chargers. Those 4 guys scare the shit out of me.
And they should, and I understand why. Honestly, the one that I feel the best about in that conversation is Sterling Shepard, just because he's going to have to get multiple targets. But he's been shut down 2 weeks ago before, and the thing is, hopefully he can get free of Patrick Peterson at least for a couple plays, and that's really what you're hoping for here. But the fact is, Tavares King looks questionable for this week after getting banged up in that big play that he had last week. So now you're down to Shepard and Roger Lewis and Evan Ingram. So that's the only hope here. I don't feel great about any of them.
I will be taking a DraftKings flyer on Roger Lewis, by the way.
I think that's interesting. I have him as somebody. So when I did the sleepers for this week, there was like other deep ones, like because we're in week 16 here, and for people in seasonal leagues, it's like how deep are you really going if you made it to week 16? Yeah. But I said if you're going super deep, if you're in a big league, big rosters, and you're looking for those flyers, I put Roger Lewis as one of those options.
Like as sort of like the flyer type wide receivers, Damiere Byrd is actually the highest of those guys on my list of like super available guys. Then it's Geronimo Allison if Aaron Rodgers plays. If Aaron Rodgers does not play, then it's not him.
Forget it. I think Paul Richardson's interesting too.
Who? Sorry?
Paul Richardson. I think he's an interesting one. The deeper flyers.
P. Rich is one of them. Kendrick Bourne, I think, is someone on the Niners that if Goodwin has the bad game, Bourne could be the one who has a good game here. Although, out of the guys that we kind of mentioned of the bad matchups, Goodwin is the one that gives me the most hope because it may not matter. Garoppolo could just throw it to him 13 times.
Yeah, I think you don't have anything funny here with like Jason Bourne, Kendrick Bourne type of thing?
It's too late in the year to start worrying myself with that.
Fair enough.
And then it would be Roger Lewis for me. That would be kind of the way I would play it. Where do I have P. Rich? Did I forget to put P. Rich in the rankings?
No, you have Paul Richardson in there. You have him behind Tyler Lockett, though, at 48.
Yeah, he's number 48, and that's a big play potential thing with Lockett. It's just
right.
If this is the range where you're going into, give me the guy who might score a 90-yard touchdown.
No, I love Chris Godwin, especially for somebody to keep your eye on for next year. The talent, somebody else from Penn State that people just completely overlooked.
And the other one would be if Macklin doesn't play. Chris Moore has done some damage in games where Macklin and then even when Wallace is banged up. Like those are the sort of the fringy wide receiver twos if you have to go there. But honestly, those guys are better DraftKings plays as like tournament flyers than like putting in your season-long lineup this week.
Yeah, please don't have to do that.
Out of all the San Diego other options, other than let's live in a world where, I mean, we're not sitting Keenan Allen, but let's say he's banged up and he's not at 100%. Hunter Henry's out for the year. Who do you think the next man up is? Do you think it's Travis Benjamin or do you think it's Tyrell Williams? Because I think it's Tyrell the Gazelle.
I've always gone with Tyrell Williams. More often than not, if you look at what he did last year, too, it's usually Tyrell Williams before he got hurt last year. So I would go that direction. Actually, Corey Parson, a couple of weeks ago, he's like, I think Travis Benjamin is sneaky. And I was like, I don't know. It might be Tyrell Williams. And it happened to be Tyrell Williams that week. Travis Benjamin has 1 or 2 games throughout the entire year. But if you're talking about odds on who it's going to be, and more often than not, if the next man up is usually Tyrell Williams.
Well, I will say just in the way that they use both of them. Like with Tyrell Williams, like he's getting shots 60 yards downfield. Not to say that Benjamin doesn't get those, but they tend to use Benjamin more on like reverses or bubble screens because he's so fucking fast that he might juke someone and then go. But I'd still rather take the guy who's getting his ADOT like 40 yards downfield.
Right, and going against that Jet secondary, that's what you're looking for.
Exactly. Quarterbacks. Guys on a first-name basis head up the top of the rankings. Ben, number 1 for me at Houston. Never liked Ben on the road, but this is a spot for him. Russ Danger, number 2. We got Cam, number 3. Tom Brady, and then Case Keenum. Then Nick Foles. Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Jared Goff. I don't even know if Rodgers is going to play, but even if he does play, he's a top 10 option because he's Aaron Rodgers and he can always do stuff. But this matchup is scary. It's scary from the perspective of that even if he does start this game, the Packers' offensive line is so bad that if they start getting to him, they might just yank him.
And that's my biggest concern. Like, first of all, like I said, I don't think he plays, but even if he does, that was what I was going to bring up and why I wouldn't even feel great about him as a top 10 option, because does he finish the game? Is he getting hit a couple times and it's like, the team just says, screw it. We're not risking this guy who's our franchise. He is the franchise at this point. So I wouldn't want to trust him in week 16 unless this is one of those situations. If you're an Aaron Rodgers and you picked him up because somebody dropped him and you've been dealing with, I don't know, Jameis Winston and Mariotas of the world all year long and, skirted into the playoffs and used Rodgers last week, I could see that. But if you have any capable quarterbacks, there's no way I'm rolling Rodgers out there.
Okay, so let's move Aaron Rodgers in my ranking. Now, I don't think I'd ever thought I'd say this. Would you play Aaron Rodgers or would you play Blake Bortles?
I would play Blake Bortles.
Oh, that's scary stuff, man.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah? Would you play Alex Smith or Aaron Rodgers?
Smith, I would play Stafford. I would play Dak. I'd consider Matt Ryan is that's where I start getting iffy.
Well, Matt Ryan kind of sucks, so that's
I
probably
know, that's
why
I start getting iffy.
But even someone like
do you want a full game of Matt Ryan or do you want 2.5 quarters of Aaron Rodgers?
I think I would almost take so maybe that's what I'll drop Rodgers down to Matt Ryan.
I think that's 14 right in front of Matt Ryan is probably where I would stop.
Yeah, so let's say Rodgers sits and Brett Hundley plays. Brett Hundley is in like the bottom 5.
I'd still play Brett Hundley over a couple people. Because the rushing up, look, it's the basically rushing up side effect of 20, 30 yards is going to get you half a touchdown anyway.
Oh, would you play Brett Hundley against the Vikings or Marcus Mariota against the Rams? I still think I would just take Marcus Mariota.
I would take Marcus Mariota too. And I would take Derek Carr. I'd probably slot him in right around Jay Cutler.
Yeah, I think I would still rather play Jay Cutler because the matchup is still soft. He might suck at it, and that's all his own doing, but the potential for him to have a good game is there.
No, absolutely. But that's the thing. Is like that's kind of where he falls into that range of does he get the 30 yards, help you out, and maybe Brett Hundley can get 220 and a touchdown, and so it really equals out to 220 and 2, which is a solid day. I think he deserves to be in that conversation with Osweiler and Cutler.
I got Jimmy G at 16 in like the worst possible matchup. I can't imagine rolling him out this week, but like, could you?
Yards are there.
Are they gonna be there against Jacksonville?
I don't think so. I love what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing, but again, it comes down to what we talked about last week, and it didn't work out. For defensively, it didn't work out. It was the fact that if Logan Ryan could limit Marquise Goodwin, what else does he have to go to? And you saw a lot of it still went to Goodwin. You got the tight ends for a couple spots here, but against this defense, and talk about just bottling up the run as well now. I mean, there's nowhere to attack the Jaguars anymore except with maybe the tight ends. That's the only area where they're still semi-weak, and if you're going there. I mean, you're really going to go George Kittle and Garrett Silk to carry Jimmy Garoppolo's day? Honestly, I would go – I don't like Tyrod against the Patriots. The Patriots always play him really tough. I would actually I would consider Flacco and Manning over Garoppolo.
You know what? At that point, I'd just be shooting for upside that Jimmy Garoppolo is awesome and it doesn't matter before I would turn to Joe Flacco in my fantasy finals.
And that's fair. That's why I said consider. I didn't say I would definitely go with them.
Let's talk tight ends because I am on exactly the same page with you when it comes to tight ends. And before we get into the rankings, I have Garrett Selleck at number 12 in the tight end rankings this week. I
like it. I think it's a really good spot for him. I was looking at your tight end rankings. I'd still go Jesse James over him, but I like both of them.
He scored the one thing is Jesse James is very unpredictable in the market share that he may or may not get. Like we even saw last week. Like why weren't they throwing to him more without Vance McDonald on the field?
I don't know, but if Vance McDonald's still not on the field this week with the matchup and you have no Antonio Brown, I don't see how he doesn't get 8 targets this week.
But that's the thing. You never know with him. It's always just a weird matchup where he pops up with 12 targets.
That's fair.
At least with Selleck, he is the only red zone threat for Jimmy Garoppolo. He's the only guy he throws to in the red zone. So that's nice. Touchdowns in past 2 weeks. And you can basically pencil him in for 4 catches, 6 targets, 40 yards, hopefully a touchdown. Maybe he does more than that against Jacksonville because that is the soft spot of their defense, but I can't say the same thing about Jesse James.
No, it's a good point. That's why, I think they're both right in there. But again, the biggest part here is the fact that Garrett Selk is as high as it is.
Well, Garrett Selk is 12, Jesse James is 13, so they are back-to-back in the rankings. But number one...
And where do you have Kittle?
Kittle, I have at
25.
25. He's not a terrible play, but he's also not a good play. He's not the one...
I do have a beef with one guy, but go ahead.
Who's the guy?
And he's way down there. Now, we'll get to him.
All right, so 1 to 10, listen, you know who you're starting at tight end this week. Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz, Graham, Olsen, Ingram, Walker, Rudolph, Doyle, Charles Dice Clay. Tends to do well against the Patriots. And then the next guys. Ebron, who just continues to get a ton of catches every week, he's one of the highest floor guys of these like rando tight ends. Selleck, Garrett Selleck, that is. Jesse James, Vernon Davis, Jason Witten, O.J. Howard, Richard Rodgers, Antonio Gates, Ben Watson, Cameron Brate. One guy I did want to highlight. I have no faith in him. He's at number 24 here. It's Jermaine, present, Gresham, who actually does pretty well when Drew Stanton is the quarterback as opposed to Blaine Gabbert. So he should be back from illness this week. What's the other dude's name? Troy Nicholas is, iffy with an ankle injury, and Drew Stanton has no rapport with Ricky Seals-Jones. I think they go back to Gresham this week.
Okay, so that's the one I have. So if Jermaine Gresham is back, I don't have as much of a problem with it. So I was going the opposite direction. I was less optimistic. Like as of today, I'm not counting on Jermaine Gresham. So if he's out, that was the one. And pickle Ricky Seals-Jones, man. That's the one.
Would you play O.J. Howard or Ricky Seals-Jones?
I would play O.J. Howard, but I would put him, boom, right there, number 17. The Giants' defense against tight ends, man, that's all it's about. You're just hoping for a touchdown, and they just keep doing it.
No, listen, I agree, but right now, if Gresham plays and Nicholas plays, then you're looking at a three-headed split. Then you're really significantly decreasing the odds of your touchdown.
No, absolutely. And to what you were saying, too, is when Jermaine Gresham was on the field, he was the number one option. And as you mentioned, there's not any type of chemistry going back to anybody else with Stan except for Gresham. So if they are all out there, I have no problem with you ranking them at what you have 30. But if Gresham is out, even with Stanton at quarterback, I would go O.J. Howard, then Ricky Seals-Jones.
All right, I still think that I would play Richard Rodgers just for the touchdown upside that comes along with playing. But again,
I don't do Packers tight ends.
He's the only one. I guess Lance Kendricks is there.
It doesn't matter unless his name is Jermichael Finley. It doesn't matter.
Hey, I played Richard Rodgers in my Packers stack lineup to get all the Packers out of my system.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers isn't that quarterback.
What if he is? The rankings are done as if he is playing quarterback. If that changes, then I have to change all these guys.
No, I want my rankings set as today.
All right,
no more changes.
Set your lineup. Listen, set your lineup on a Tuesday afternoon. Take the rest of the year off.
Done. I'm Broncoing it over here. Get my chicken in the rotisserie at the same time.
Finally, defenses. It's actually a good week for defense as opposed to the past few weeks. I feel really good about like the top 7 options. Even Chicago I can get behind here against Cleveland at home. So Baltimore, Carolina, Philadelphia, the Chargers, Steelers, Rams, Jacksonville, Bears, Vikings, and Washington. I think the big tricky one here is the Vikings because if Aaron Rodgers only lasts a quarter or two, then they could have a big day.
They could definitely have a big day, or if Hundley just starts the game. And there you go. The only
but that would be a job. We're doing this as if Aaron Rodgers is playing.
Right. I know. I'm with you, but I think that's intriguing either way because if Aaron Rodgers is playing, I think there's a big question of whether he finishes the game. So I think the Vikings would be a little bit higher. I would like the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit higher just because of the Jay Cutler factor.
But their defense sucks.
I know. Well, but look at last week. There's potential there. And then if you get a special teams touchdown, that's what you're hoping for. That's what we're always hoping for. You could get a kick return any time with that team, and let alone if Jay Cutler throws in 3 interceptions.
I still prefer. I know that their defensive line was getting more penetration last week against the Chargers. But the Chargers' O-line was so beat up. If there's one thing that the Dolphins actually have, it's an offensive line that can block.
And that's fair. I'm looking for turnovers, so I can see that.
But I always feel like that propagates turnovers. The defensive line getting to the quarterback.
Speaking of getting after the quarterback and no offensive line, how do you not even? How do you not? Now I sound like one of the people on Twitter. I would have Arizona Cardinals at least inside the top 15.
I looked into them. There was a reason that I went away from them that I can't actually.
Oh, well, let me know. I'm intrigued now.
No. I got to go look up. I got to go. As we have like 5 minutes left here, I'll try to walk through my process of looking for defenses. The DVOA hasn't updated yet, but I mean that's always my number one look. I don't love DVOA, really as any sort of predictive metric, but I do really enjoy the offensive line and defensive line DVOA. So it's Arizona and the Giants. And the Giants right now, in terms of offensive line, have the 12th best offensive line by adjusted sack rate. They're actually kind of good. And then when you look at it the other way, I feel like it's their defensive line that's overrated when it comes to actually getting pressure on the quarterback, and that's why I went away from them. Arizona, the 23rd DVOA pass rush right now. So that would be it. Because I remember giving them a look right away, being like, hey, against Eli, the Giants' O-line sucks, and once I dug into it, they weren't as good. The matchup was not as good on paper as it was in my mind when I was thinking about it.
Okay, that's good to know. I like it.
Hey, listen, not all the time do I do no research. Sometimes I do a little bit. That was one I actually looked at.
I think that's a good one, though. I appreciate that. Now I'm going to start looking for that as well.
All right. Oh, yeah. Listen, that's the process I use. That's why I always have the Bears ranked highly. And the Bears aren't a great defense, and I know they've been a bit banged up. They've had big fantasy days. Like, I actually think they're kind of akin to the Kansas City Chiefs in a way where, like, you are trying to get, like, if you use the Chiefs, like, always having the Tyreek Hill X factor always really works out because he can always bust one. But I feel that same way about Tariq Cohen right now. He's now returned, like, 8 touchdowns this year, and none of them have counted.
I actually think Tariq Cohen in a deep league is interesting for this week because if they get written out quickly, as Jordan Howard can, Tariq Cohen gets double-digit touches for the rest of the game, and a big play is bound to happen.
The problem is Benny Cunningham plays too many snaps.
I know, that's so annoying.
It is. And he even drops touchdowns.
I was looking at it while we were talking about it. The thing is what ranks the Giants over, because I check Pro Football Focus too, is their run blocking is piss poor.
Yeah, and their pass blocking is kind of good.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Interestingly enough. Somebody talked about this because Eric Flowers is now taking a huge step back, like not physically, but he puts his left foot really far back, which helps with his pass block, but with the run blocking, he can't get off the line.
So right now, if you're looking to mine defenses, and this is reflected in my defensive rankings for the week, number 1 in terms of DVOA pass rush, adjusted sack rate of getting and just creating havoc in the backfield. Carolina, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Denver, the Chargers, the Skins, and listen, the Skins came through for us last week, the Rams, Ravens, and Bears. That's your top 10 in terms of pass rush. If you're looking to pick on teams in terms of bad offensive lines, we all know Indianapolis has by far the worst offensive line in terms of adjusted sack rate. And then it is, I believe it's the Jets, but it could be I think it's the Jets. Let's see here. Indy's the worst, then the Jets, Packers, Broncos, Bills, Texans, Redskins, Cardinals, Cleveland, and then San Francisco. So those are the teams to either target because of pass rush or target because they have shitty offensive lines.
Information, good to know. More to know.
Yeah, listen, it's really worked out. It's really worked out both streaming defenses and picking Draftkings like value defenses this year.
That's a good information. It's something you look. Hey, I'll add it to my repertoire at the end of the season.
And it's super easy. And listen, DVOA will update through.
It usually updates tomorrow.
Wednesday. Yeah, it updates Wednesday. So I'll do a relook at it, but I mean, no one fluctuates that much. It's like a spot or two.
At this point of the season. I look a lot by position versus the actual defensive and offensive line. So, like I said, I'll start incorporating that.
All right, Jake Ciely. Teaching you. I think it's the first thing that I've ever taught you in 4.5 years of doing the show.
I don't think that's true. SEO.
Yeah, SEO. That was more from my business writing articles in the back end type of side.
Yeah, that's very true. Hey, but you taught me some things. That's all that matters, right?
No, I taught you one thing. You teach me millions, and you teach the people millions. So I want to thank you again for being on the show all year, lending everyone your time, your expertise. So tell everyone where they can listen, watch, read, and follow you on social media.
Yeah, on social media, at AllInKid, as always, at RotoExperts.com, where the rankings will be released tonight at midnight on Tuesdays, like they always are. I'll have rankings for you knuckleheads on Week 17 even. And then Fantasy Radio, listen to over there, On Target, 4 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, the award-winning On Target. And then the videos on YouTube channel for the Fantasy Sports Network as well. All sorts of good things. Hashtag, check the link, go get a T-shirt. I already sold a couple of them for Christmas. Yay. Yeah,
but buy some Check the Link T-shirts. Help Jake out a little bit. Is this FSTA social media vote closed yet?
It's closed. Look, I appreciate everybody that voted for me, but I don't think there's a chance in hell.
Listen, we tried to promote as much as possible, but it's going to be a tough road up when you're dealing with people with hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers.
Yeah.
It's you know what it is? Rigged.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, buddy. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I will be speaking to you soon because I think we might need to get together and do some early 2018 rankings when the time is right.
Yeah, any videos with us is always a good time. I'm always ready.
It's true. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at the PME. Remember to sign up for that one and done pool you can find for golf. You can find the information on my Twitter and my Facebook if you want to go check that out. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Audio Boom, and the video version always up, uncut, uncensored, on the Draftkings YouTube page. All my rankings are up on DKPlaybook.com, updated all the way through to the early morning Sunday games, and then I'm saying, fuck this, and I'm taking my Christmas vacation. Anyway, good luck if you're in your fantasy finals. Thank you for watching all season long. We really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.